Welcome to the Wwise Worldwide Online Expo. Simon Ashby, Head of Product here at Audiokinetic. Hey, Simon.
Hey, hi, Damien. How are you?
I'm doing great. Great to see you on the live stream. Thanks for joining us today. Excitement is high over here. I'm fired up to reveal this exciting new thing. But first, tell us a little bit about your position at Audiokinetic.
Yeah. As you shown, I'm head of product at Audiokinetic. I'm one of the co-founders as well. So I've been there since the beginning and seeing Audiokinetic evolving and the product offering evolving as well. And it's always exciting to arrive at this moment where, okay, we're ready to show something else. And this time around, as you'll see in a minute or two, it's quite different from what we used to do. So we're still in audio, of course. We're still talking to the same audience, but in a different manner. So quite exciting.
Yeah, well, and as you mentioned, it's not every day that we are announcing something new here at Audiokinetic. So, new product release.
Yes.
It's not a
Yeah.
plugin. It's not an application. It's not directly related to Wwise. Why do you think sound designers will love it?
Well, there are plenty of reasons for this, and we'll go through the details and how this thing is made up and so on. And through that, I think the value and why we believe sound designers will be excited should reveal itself. And of course, what will be really interesting is we have people monitoring the questions and the chat on YouTube and Twitch. So yeah, don't hesitate to post your questions there. And at the end of the presentation, we have plenty of time for Q&A. Basically, it's the last portion of the live stream, and we're used to do 8 hours live stream, right? So
I remember the days, it was early on, and you've got kids jumping on the couch in the background, and, people all over the world tuning in. And so it's, again, a gift to be able to extend this online expo year after year to try and bring people into what we're doing here at Audiokinetic.
yeah.
I know I show up excited to work and develop these things for the community and to be able to talk about them finally in the case of Wwise 22.1 or this new product. It's just great to be here today. So,
It is.
well, what do you think?
So just before showing slides and going into the detail, we have our teaser video, codename Hero video, here to show it. So it's a 50-something second long video in which we present all the bits and pieces that are there that tips on what is this product, while piquing the curiosity of people and while exposing what business people will refer to as UPS, the unique USP, unique selling proposition.
Oh, yeah.
So we tried to accomplish all these goals in 50-something seconds, and we have it ready for you today. So let's start with that, and then we'll dig into all the components.
Sounds great. Here we go. Simon, wow. An incredible introduction to a new product here at Audio Kinetic. Tell us more about Strata.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, so let's go into more of the details. So, as the video is kind of alluding to, is that Strata is the first sound effects library that's been conceived, produced, designed to be distributed and used in its channel, in its multi-channel format. And contrarily to all the other sound effects library, where essentially you get the rendered file of those projects, and for some libraries, you do have the construction kits, for example, so bits and pieces, but never into its full multi-track format where you have access to everything, like modifying every media item and clips and fades and effect settings to change and isolating layers and all that. It's all at your fingertips now to really customize the content to exactly fit the purpose of the project you're working on. So that's the novelty, and that's where we believe we are really offering something really interesting and novel to our audience and to any sound designers, and especially our audience for sure. So another way to talk about that, we used a food metaphor internally here, where we say, well, not only with Strata Library you get the meal, so all the rendered files for you, but you also get the recipe, the know-how, and all the ingredients. So with that, well, it's quite easy to swap ingredients and change things around and make things a bit spicier or maybe sweeter, you have absolute control over all the variables that make up the sound that you receive from that. And something interesting, just an aside here. So before now, before revealing it to the public, we contacted a few people for an early access to Strata because we wanted feedback from professionals in the industry about the product so that we can adjust things and make it the best product we can for that. And we had a bunch of indie developers, we had AAA developers, we had a couple of academic institutions out there. And among the audience, we had like junior sound designers to really experienced sound designers, like people with decades of experience in sound design and known names in the industry. And what was systematic when we've done debriefs with these companies and these people is every one of them, from the most junior to the most senior, they all said it is so great to see how other world-class sound designers are making their sounds, how it's built, and they all got a few things here and there saying, oh, this is how you achieve that kind of effects for this specific type of sounds, So that was really enlightening and really satisfying to see that, okay, the know-how transfer, which is something we had an intuition for, but seeing everybody responding to that, saying, wow, it's really great to learn and to become better at this craft. So that's really really great. So we say it's in multi-track format. So some people were intrigued. They were thinking that we developed our own DAW. So maybe that's a project for the future, but it's not something we've done. What we decided to do is to use an actual DAW that's already on the market. And for us, when we evaluated the options we had and the various objectives that we had, Reaper just became the obvious choice quite rapidly for a series of reasons. And so first of it is a few years ago, we sent a survey to Wwise users, and one of the questions was, what is your DAW that you're using on your day-to-day? And at the time, we had more than 50% of our users working with Reaper. And knowing that Reaper is really in the rise in terms of adoption, it's certainly a larger number than that today. So that serves well the first audience that we have, definitely. And what is really nice with Reaper is you can create extensions and basically add workflows and or add customized workflow for specific teams. And if you notice, a couple of weeks ago, we released Rewise, which is an extension that facilitates the transfer of files from Reaper to Wise. And what we will start doing now that Strata is out is starting working on Strata specific Reaper extension as well, to enhance workflow and to enhance, some of the things that are that we can address in terms of rapidity or getting access to your content faster or in a better informed ways. And that's what's part of the feedback that we received as well from the early access people that played with it. So that's great. And finally, yeah, Reaper is just so powerful, so customizable, and as you can see on their own website, for the price, it's not so much. So it's really affordable and easily accessible to anybody. So that's why we chose Reaper. And if you look, so it's a sound effects library we're doing. And as any library out there, it's comprised of collections. And those collections are theme-based. So collections on footsteps, on modern weapons, on UI sounds, on ambience, so it's categorized like that. So when we look into one collection, we pick one collection, the way it's made, it starts with a main project. That's how we call it. So the main project, it's a Reaper project. And you see here all the color-coded tracks. They are all components of that collections. And in the Reaper vocabulary, what you're seeing actually here are just the other Reaper projects that are called sub-projects. So the idea with that is you pick one of these. So let's say this one here at the bottom, and when you double click on this sub-project, it opens the corresponding Reaper project. And from there, that's where you work. So the main project is really just to browse the content of your collection, or one way to browse the content of your collection. And then you dig into it, and now you have the full Reaper project at your disposal with every components and every clips and everything accessible at your fingertips there. So this is systematic. All the collections are built in this fashion. Now, if we look into a bit more in details, so you're part of a sub-project, and you can see that the project is configured to facilitate fast rendering of variations. So this is on the vertical axis, where you see a series like 4 regions there. So you can already imagine like a random container with 4 variations of your sound. And on the horizontal axis, those are our stems, are the layers that each sound is comprised. And so, for example, what we're looking at right now is a pistol project. So that pistol sound is comprised of a body layer, a mechanism, transient, punch, tail, and cinematic. And we tried to be as systematic as possible with this approach. So the first layer is always the body one, or the main element. And then we have detail layers in blue and orange below. And at the bottom, it's always the cinematic layer. The cinematic is the one with the, the subwoofer and the big bass drop. And by default, it's muted because it's a bit over the top. But when you need it, you just unmute and you re-render your sound with the cinematic, and here you go, right? So this is the framework for each of the collection. And if you look at the right-hand side, we're looking at the markers and regions view. And from there, the markers are there to quickly navigate from a sound to another. And the regions separate, it's basically each of the layers are separated by region. And they are named in a way that simplifies at the rendering time, will simplify with your naming convention. So all the region names are respecting the UCS naming convention, and the regions are the effects name portion of that. So if you're not used with UCS, it's a standard that emerged a few years ago, but it's starting to become a standard these days, especially among sound effects library vendor. But there's more and more game developer as well that realize that the UCS structure is so well done to categorize your content that it's a good approach for your own naming convention in your for your own game productions, for example. And here you can see that All the rendered files that you get access from Strata are using the UCS format, but also all the source files have also been named respecting that format. So later, if you put that into SoundMiner or some other sound library and software, well, it's respecting that format, and it's really easy to browse and find your content in a meaningful and predictable ways for that. So this is, in essence, what you get when you subscribe to Strata, and how the projects are presented, the sub-projects, and the various collections. So now, what is also included with Strata? So as I mentioned before, there's Rewise, which is our first Reaper extension that helps transferring sounds to Wise. And without going into details, there's already a live stream on that. But there's four main components to it. So first of all, we're leveraging the Reaper wildcard system. And this is another thing fantastic with Reaper. So by leveraging these wildcard system, then we can do tons of things. And for Rewise, the way we've done it is we're associating, actually, the user can associate Reaper wildcards to Wise containers. So blend containers could be the region name, and your sound could be this other portion, and the project name could be your blend container, that kind of thing. So you decide for that. And depending on the type of sound you're creating, you may want to create presets for these association between Wise objects and Reaper wildcards. So you create your presets, you recall them, and off you go. And then as you transfer content to Wise, sometime you might have some content conflicting or something happening. So there's a way where you say, okay, what do you do if the object already exists in Wise? Do you want to abort the transfer? Do you want to replace what's in Wise? That kind of behaviors. And finally, the really neat aspect of it is before committing, before saying transfer to Wise, you can preview the sounds that you identified in Reaper that you want to render and you want to transfer to Wise on the other side. You can preview the hierarchy. And if there's any conflict at that point, it will show up, the color change there, and you're really in control of what will happen in Wise once you'll commit to transfer there. So you can adjust and so on. So that's a really neat Reaper extension that we created. And that's one of the components part of Strata. We also have plugins with Strata. So we are bundling the IEM plugins. So the IEM plugin suite, it's a series of 20 plugins, plus or minus one. So there's a lot of plugins in there. We're not using them all. We're using 4 or 5 maybe of them, especially for the ambience collections, because we're leveraging their stereo encoder and the ambisonic decoding and all that. So there's IEM. There's also all the Wise plugin that we converted to VST3 plugins as well, and now it's packaged with Strata, so you get access to that. You can see that we ramp up or change the look and feel for these effects. So that's the room verb effect that you're seeing right now. And we also are leveraging Enrage. So Enrage is a plugin that Boom library created, and it's a gigantic plugin. Actually, it's not a plugin; it's more a plugin maker, where you've got 50-something DSP components or module, and you're building your own effects chain inside of Enrage, and you can do almost anything with that. It's really, really powerful and flexible, and this is part of it. And for us, so in order to create and produce and distribute a sound effects library in multi-track format, it was super important that out of the box, once you subscribe and you get access to it, you have all the plugins necessary to run those Reaper projects and hear exactly what you're supposed to hear, right? How they've been designed. So every sound effects has been designed using these effects that you're seeing there. Now, once you have your content, if you want to use your own effects, replace, add, and so on, you're free to do that. But you know that out of the box, you press play and you get exactly the sound you're supposed to have using these effects there. So there's that into the mix. Okay, so we talk about how it looks like in Reaper, the plugins you receive, the Rewise thing. Now let's talk about the production, like creating all those collections in a novel way, in a multi-track format. So this is in itself, it's been a discovery, and it's been a fantastic journey, I'd say, in there. And Audiokinetic is a software company, right? So we had the choice of, okay, ramping up a division inside Audiokinetic and do our own sound design and so on. But we were not seeing that as the best way to serve our users and our audience. Rapidly, for us, it was clear that we needed to work with a partner, and we wanted to work with the best partner possible out there. And the short list, the list was quite short, and on top of that list, we had Boom Library. We knew each other for a long time. Every year or a few times per year, we had discussions, and we were looking for ways to work together. And eventually, when the Strata idea and the project evolves internally, we meet with Boom and discuss and presented our project, and we're saying, we're looking for a partner. We would like working with you. But it's a long shot because it's a new way of doing things, and you will kind of expose all your layers and your know-how, and all that. So how do you feel about that, and so on? And the discussion went on, and it was really interesting. And then the answer basically that they gave us is, it's a crazy idea, but we like crazy ideas, and we want to work with you on that, and let's do it, basically. So that was great. And just to put that in context as well, so Strata is not just attached to Boom necessarily. It's our first production partner, and we're glad to do it with Boom. But eventually, we want to bring other partners as well to the equation to complete the whole offering, basically. And there, but starting everything with Boom was great. And okay, and we have a video. So we'll just play back our behind the scene, or the making of Strata video, in which you will see Axel and Pierre from Boom talking about how it went on their side and so on. And on our side, there's Simon Pressey and myself talking about that project as well. And it's a 5 or 6 minute video. So we'll play that, and that should give you an additional outlook of what it is behind the entire project, and what's part of the offering, basically. So Damien, if you're ready, we can play that video.
Interestingly, the idea for Strata happened during a meeting where we're talking about something totally different, and we just had this haha moment. I don't know, the things connected, and we just said Strata. Strata Library is the first library of sound effects that's been designed from the ground up to be produced and distributed in multi-track format. And by that we mean providing all the tracks, all the clips edits, all the effects, so it's full flexibility at your fingertips, basically.
Strata is cake and the ingredients put together via Master Chef, prepped, ready for you to bake. So you can play with the ingredients, recombine them in different rounds, and produce a completely different cake, as opposed to existing libraries, which are the cake.
It really takes away a lot of work that is not fun, and not repeating the same kind of boring steps in editing and cropping and all these things that are not very creative. You have more time and more energy to then start working on the creative sound design, which is what I think all sound designers are most interested in.
Audiokinetic has always considered providing content to its users, but we didn't want to do exactly the same thing that all the other content providers are doing out there. How can we improve productivity, enabling our users to be better artists and be able to produce more content in less time? For us, as a software company, it was quite obvious that we would do that project in partnership with an established content provider out there.
It's a typical games industry story, I guess. Throughout all the years, we've been going to GDC or some other shows, and we always met people from Audiokinetic. We noticed that there is a common ground and that there's also a big potential because we have all that content and Audiokinetic has all the tech. All of a sudden we had, all the parts that we needed came together.
We just put all the cards on the table, everything was clear, and we just said, okay, let's do that project together. The number one concern that I had in terms of how would they receive that idea was sharing their content, sharing the multi-track, sharing their know-how and their IP, basically.
We don't really believe in trade secrets. The whole idea of Boom Library when we started was to be the first ones to offer source recordings. But we've been asked about, hey, how do you do your design, your final design? How do you do that? And that is something that we couldn't share so far. And now we finally came up with something together with Audiokinetic that gives us the chance to share this. And then there's new, unique, and individual sound design coming out of it.
In interactive media, quite a lot of your sounds, the end user is experiencing thousands of times. And you want to immerse them in a more realistic environment. So in sound design for video games, we're having to produce sounds that are different every time they're played.
So for example, for footsteps, we have 48 projects. We have 7 different actions per footstep category, so per shoe or on a generic surface, and then 16 variations per action, per shoe, per surface. That totals up to 9,888 sounds if you render them, and that's a lot more source sounds even in the projects because you have different microphone perspectives, and that's stuff we don't render with it. So that's, I think, quite a lot.
That's something that is common in the AAA side of the industry, but is beyond the budgets of smaller game designs. So we're able to give people the opportunity to produce AAA quality audio without a AAA budget. So we're working with Reaper, and Reaper has a lot of things going for it.
It's super flexible. First, it's scriptable. It's also the DAW that is more and more adopted in the interactive world, and it's cheap. It's really not expensive. So for us, it was just the best DAW out there to produce that content. When we started that project, we were a bit naive with the approach, thinking that, oh, they probably have their multi-track projects already, we can just reuse that and package it. But it's not what Strata is.
We've done a lot of tidying up. We've made all of the Reaper sessions be structured very similarly, with every sound named accordingly, every track named sensibly. So we're using the universal category system to name all of the files. And we've produced a system that allows you to automatically name your rendered files very easily, with less opportunity for human error.
If there are any difficulties, I think we run into all of them. So we had the whole COVID situation, of course, making recordings, the planning of recordings really, really difficult. We completely underestimated the workload. Also, of course, once we started, we had like internal feature requests from our own team because we wanted to improve stuff. Yeah, that was challenging because we are not that many people, and it is quite a big project.
Any sound designers from the linear world will also benefit from Strata Library, just because so many times when you're fetching for sounds, for sources, and you get a sound that is almost perfect, but there's this little thing ringing, or this little artifact that you don't like, or you're mainly fixing the sound that you're getting instead of just isolating the parts that you actually need and removing what is not right.
We use Strata since the first module was done. And that's always a very good sign, because if we need it on our side, as pros in the game sound design world, then usually other people will need it as well.
All right, welcome back. And what a great behind the scenes on the production. We're joined here by Axel and Pierre from Boom. Welcome to the live stream.
Hi there. Thanks for having us, Damien and Tom.
Having us.
So great to have everyone together here as we launch Strata out into the world. I just wanted to ask a question up front to the Boom folks. boom. It's a industry standard, well established sound library collections out there in the world. What was interesting about Strata? What made that worth taking the leap with us on?
I'll take that one. So, first off, it's super exciting to be here. And finally, after several years of work, actually, the behind scenes doesn't show everything, of course. It was a very long journey and a very positive one. Um, the initial idea why we said we definitely want to do that was twofold. The first one was we like to work with really nice people, and Autokinetic people are really nice people, at least all the ones we know. So the ones that are still hiding, you better be nice too. And like Simon said, we had been in contact for many years. You see each other at conferences and all sorts of shows, and we also know Wise, of course, and have been in contact with it. And then finally, there was this idea coming up saying, hey, we want to do a sound library that kind of opens the treasure box for every sound designer and shows how things are being done. And we have always been very much in favor of this kind of transparent and collaborative approach. I mean, the whole idea when we started Boom Library 12 years ago was that we as game sound designers didn't have the right tools to do our game sound design, because all the sound libraries were very much for linear media and film and so forth. And at the same time, we said, well, if we're going to create something for us internally, why don't we share it? And that was, how the first collections were released. And sharing, well, sharing is caring, that, but sharing not only the designed versions, because that would be pretty much like the standard sound effects library by the time, but really sharing what we need as source files for our sound design. And that is, like, well, what Boom is with the construction kits. It's a lot of variations per sound. It's very high quality so that you can process it heavily without losing quality. And it is good metadata, which is consistent so that you can find your stuff. And we directly shared this because that was the product in a way, and we only got positive feedback. It was always like, hey, this is super interesting, and that's also why we delivered the design versions with it, because we wanted to show, okay, this is what we can do out of this construction kit library. This is the designs that we do. And when we now listen back to what we did in the beginning, it's really like 12 years ago. So the design versions have become much stronger, I would say, and the construction kits as well. So there's a very good, kind of quality evolution there. But we always lacked the possibility to share the real behind scenes again, like, what is the DAW session? And we had requests from our customers asking, hey, can you show us, or can you share a session where you have produced this and this design sound from this and this collection? And we're like, well, should we do something? We don't know. It's very difficult because there's so many different DAWs, and it's not really our forte to, prepare this and do some kind of software around it or link it to something. I mean, we're the sound library design guys. So again, we were not really focused on doing something like this, but the idea was hanging around, and it was just a matter of finding the right time and having the right partner. And well, when Simon came up with it, and Simon for us is he stands for Autokinetic. So hello, Simon. He came up, he said, we want to do this, and we said, finally we can do it and share everything. And for us now with the release, it's only the beginning of a journey, because right now we are sharing how we design the stuff, and now it's going to be very interesting to see, what do people do with it? What's the feedback? What's new? Perhaps there's new ideas coming out of this. I already saw in the chat that there's questions about, hey, can this be used for educational, for example? And I would say yes, of course. That's exactly the reason why we do this, is to train, not to train people actively, but to just share the knowledge. That's it. Open up and share the knowledge, and just see what comes next. And hopefully this is like perhaps even a new standard format for sound library deliveries on the long run, that you don't simply deliver final stuff, but that you deliver the core of your work and share it with people.
Yeah, well, and there's been a ton of exciting engagement in the chat talking about this educational opportunity, and the gift of being presented with all of this different contextual information about sound design. It really is something special. And I'll turn it over to Simon and ask, Boom as a partner, like, why? How did that happen?
Why?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned that a bit just before the video, but yeah, for us, well, we needed to work with people that know what they're doing in terms of sound design and so on. So and boom, I think you started in the video game company, right? Through Dynamedion and your company. So you always, since the beginning, you created everything with interactive audio in mind, right? So everything you delivered is custom made for that media, and that was super important for us, that what we would produce would fit the audience, right? That's what we do with Wise. It's to help people doing their interactive audio soundtrack. So that's why the first people we contacted was you guys. And we knew each other a bit as well, and we knew the way we like doing business, which is to be really transparent in terms of, okay, this is why we're doing that, and this is the benefits that we see there, and this is the benefits that we see for you if we are partnering there. Do you see the same thing? And we were sharing that, and quite rapidly, like after the first call, I think it was kind of clear that, all right, I think the stars are mostly aligned. There's a few details we need to iron out and like future meetings, and we worked a while to figure out everything. But the principle, I think it was clear that we had a real balance, and we were bringing, both parties were bringing what the other party couldn't bring, basically, to make something superior. So yeah, I'm just glad that you had the time, the availability, and the willingness to say yes to that project. So thank you very much again.
And that really is at the
Yeah.
heart of a strong collaboration, right? Is that willingness to work together, to find the right balance, and again with that transparency, not just of processes, but I think that overflows into Strata and what it represents, right? There's just a ton of visibility into something that may not have had the greatest exposure over time, and your work together speaks to that transparency. So we're here today at the launch of Strata. This is an exciting time. We're just getting started, but what's next for Boom Library and the production of Strata?
So we are trying to cover all sorts of genres and styles we can think of, and we're coming out with some footsteps libraries, or one footstep library with thousands and thousands of sounds. Of course, we need a movement library for that as well. So we have recorded cloth that's like medieval armory, but also modern soldiers, but also rain jackets made of nylon and textiles and all sorts of things. We had a big epic session of World War II firearms that will be out in a couple of months, as well as historic black powder cannons, and it's really making a big whiz sound if the ball flies over your head. That's very interesting. Even an aircraft library is coming up, so you will have like helicopters, prop planes, jet planes, passengers, military, all sorts of airplanes. And of course, something that all game sound designers are longing for, as far as I heard, is a physics library with thousands and thousands of sounds hitting on different material, from different material of different sizes, with bending, impacting in different like velocity layers, and a multitude of variations. So a lot is to come over the next years, and we are very excited to make this happen.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, and that physics library speaks right to my heart here. I love those kinds of sounds, and I think it's, many games that need to reach into that deep, deep bucket of variation. And I know that that's what Strata embodies across all of the different collections, is really fundamentally that deep ability to not only bend and manipulate what's there, but create variations to create systems that are believable in a way that that games have always needed. So fantastic. Well, I look forward to that bright future, and thanks for joining us today on the live stream at the launch of Strata. Congratulations on arriving here, and let's keep working together as we move forward.
Absolutely. A pleasure and honor.
Likewise.
Thank
You
you.
very
Thank
much.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Fantastic. Great. Well, Simone, fantastic to have the libraries out into the world today.
Uh-huh.
And I know we're going to dig a little deeper into what that means. But for folks who are fast with their fingers and already hitting audiokinetic.com, let's give them an overview of what they can expect there.
No, definitely, definitely. Cool. So, all right. So let's look into what's there for for you, for people that that will be interesting by Strata. So first, let's look at the production schedule. So what we agreed. So the first, when we agreed, Boom and us to create that, we agreed on the production of 37 collection. And those 37 collections being separated in ambience, character sound, comeback, UI sounds, these kind of things. And that's the plan, basically, up to fall 23. Then we already agree with Boom for another round of 20 something libraries, not libraries, but collections to be added to Strata library. Them, and we're also we want to onboard other partners as well in parallel to that. So the number of collection will grow quite fast, quite rapidly. But this is what is guaranteed and what we already know precisely: the number of sounds per collection that will be produced. The sound books are all created already, so it's just a matter of finishing them. So that there. So as you can see, for each of these collections, you're seeing the number of sounds right now on the screen. And just a reminder again, what is a sound in Strata? Well, a sound, it's a region in Reaper that is comprised of multiple sources that comprise that sound, right? So one sound is actually a lot of content just for a single sound. So when we say, okay, there's 500 sound in a collection, well, there's 500 regions with many sources inside of it. So that's what will be produced. And I say fall 23. Our actual schedule is more summer, but just in case, I'm putting some some leeway here, so that we never know what could happen. But this is our plan right now. And if right now you're to go on the website and to subscribe, you're gonna get 14 collections. So that's this month. And so you see there's the aircraft, there are ambience collections, creature, explosion, footsteps, UI sounds, vehicles. So that's available now. And every month we're releasing a certain amount of collections. So next month we have 3 additional collections. So Animal Domestic, Animal Wild, and Doors. And then in December, it's going to be Modern Firearms and Bullets. And then January, we go with, it's a special around ambience. So medieval, fantasy, and doom ambience. And it just goes like this up to fall next year. So where every month you're going to have new content. And Pierre just mentioned Pierre or Axel just mentioned the physics collection. So just look at the number of sounds there. This is gigantic. It's almost 10, 20 collection in itself. Oh, and by the way, when I was talking about the early access people that evaluated, so in the academic AAA titles, when the AAA companies that typically they organize a lot of systems in their games, when they saw the physics collection and the number of sounds there, they said, oh, this might be a solution for the game we're working on right now, where instead of probably spending months, if not more than that, to record their own physics sounds, which will be like the invoice of that will be in the 6 digit, definitely, right? Having one or a few person for 6 months, a year to produce all that sound. Well, it's going to be there in not so long, and you're going to have a fantastic amount of physics sounds available to you. So that's the plan. That's how we want to make sure that we have this steady cadence of new releases coming up. So now, how much does it cost? How does it work? So let's talk about that. So Strata is a per seat 3-year subscription model. So that's the model. There's more and more sound effects vendors that are going the subscription route. And one of the obvious reasons for it is it provides access to every new collections that are added to the library each month. And I don't know for the other companies, but for us, we're starting at 14. We're going to have 37s in a year or less, and another set and other partners. So there's a constant stream of new collections added. So the subscription model is definitely the right approach, or the best approach, we believe, for Strata. So now, how much does it cost? So there's an actual price and there's an introductory offering. So what we know with the 37 collections that and the number of sounds and everything there, we know that when they will all be available, the value of the subscription will be $1,500 per user per year. So, but right now it's going to be less expensive because we have 14 collections and because it's a new model, right? It's a novel way to consume sound effects library as well. So there's some sort of a early adopters leap forward that you need to do there. So we're consequently discounting heavily the collection. So the price will be actually $495 per user per year. And that's our early adopter discount. And just to make it clear, so again, so it's, let's say $500 per year. It's a 3-year subscription. So you're going to have 3 installments. You pay $500 now, $500 in 1 year, and in 2 years, the last $500 installments. But the beauty of subscribing now is you guarantee your price for the next 3 years. And it's clear, right? The where we're heading is toward 1,500 in a year from now, maybe before that. So we're starting at 500. So that discount will go smaller and smaller to eventually be at 0% discount by fall next year. So this price, as let's say $500, is for this month, maybe the next 6 weeks, the next 8 weeks. We don't know exactly at which cadence we will augment that price, but we know that we will augment that price and we will arrive in a year from now at the full value, the full price of it. So if you want to guarantee your low price, better think about it now than later. And if it's later, it's fine. There's people here that will appreciate receiving more money in the future than the $500 now. In any case, so that's the offering. That's how we. That's how Strata is sold as a subscription, and that's your early adopter discount. And if you'd like to try it and you want to know more before committing, because it's still there's a commitment there, we have. Oh no, okay. I'll talk about the simple library. So just before, just to follow the order of my slides. So a little recap. What you have. Well, it's a library of multi-track sound effects. Everything is multi-track. You also have the rendered files for sure. You have the VST effects from Boom, from Wwise, and from IEM. There's Rewise that's been made to really leverage the Strata content and facilitate the export to Wwise. And we know that you're going to have in 1 year from now at least 37 collections, if not more, available to you at a very low price if you adopt soon Strata. Now, if you want, there's a sample collection. So there's the Strata sample 1. We'll probably produce others in the future, and that's your way to basically get a taste for Strata before your subscription. So what you're gonna get? So the sample 1 contains samples of 8 of the 14 collections that are available right now. It's not the full 14 because, for example, we have 3 UI collections. But they're all using the same format or the same, they're built the same way. So we just use content of one of the collection to add to the free sample. Same thing between vehicle and aircraft. It's the same principle of having steady RPM engine loops. So we just provided that. But basically, you're going to have a taste for mostly what's available from the 14 collections with that sample. It includes the Strata VST effects, of course, and super important, and that's something that I really stressed out when we were looking at the licensing and the legal portion. So you can use the content of the Strata Sample 1 for your commercial projects you're working on. So if you're hired by the video game company or you're a content provider and you're providing sounds for a company, you can use the content and the output of your work from Strata and use that commercially in a project, and that's all clean. Because there's no better way to explore a product than doing something for real, right? So your goal is to deliver the best sound for your project. Well, you can do it with Strata, so it's safe to do it. And finally, this is just it's a bit peculiar there, but so to get access to the free collection, you need to subscribe to the free collection. And the only reason for that is we're using, in the backend, we're using the same system as the standard subscription for the free subscription. So you're subscribing to a $0 collection, basically. So, and so if you're interested and you want to put your hands on the free sample, it's available now, if all the systems are going correctly here, as suppose. So just go on the products section of audiokinetic.com. You'll see now there's a new product called Strata. And at the bottom, you can choose between, well, subscribe directly to the product or get the free sample. And when you click there, that leads you to your cart. So you see it's a $0 transaction. We're not asking for your credit cards or any other information there. It's just we go through the card because it's the same process as the standard subscription. The only thing you need, though, is you need to have an Audiokinetic account. So if you already have your Audiokinetic account, just log in. If you don't, just create one and put a real email address, because that's going to be necessary. Accept the terms of the ULA for the VST effects and the subscription and the Strata library. And I suggest that you subscribe to the newsletter as well. So we have a newsletter for Wwise, but we're creating a new independent stream for Strata as well. So if you subscribe there, you're going to get a newsletter probably on a monthly basis, because we're releasing new collections on a monthly basis. But we know that we're going to have also videos and tips and tricks and like stuff related to Strata communicated there. And at any given moment, you can unregister anyway. So, but it's probably a good suggestion to do that. So now you've completed your $0 transaction. You now have access to the free sample collection. So you'll go at two different places to get everything. So first, to get your plugins, you'll go on your profile. So you need to your Audiokinetic user account. So click on your profile, and you see there's a new tab on the left-hand side for subscription. You click on that, and you'll see at the bottom, you get your installers for Mac or Windows for the three different plugins. So that's how you get your plugins. And for the content, for the collection itself, this is through the former Wwise Launcher. So we renamed the Wwise Launcher as Audiokinetic Launcher, because now there's more than Wwise to download out of there. And because of that, you're forced to update your launcher. So that's the first thing. Just update your launcher. The Strata tab will appear. You click on it, and you'll see your free subscription or free sample available there. And you'll see the list of all the other collections available for the full subscription of Strata. And it's through the Audiokinetic Launcher that every new collections will be available on a monthly basis. If for a reason we need to update a collection that already been released, you'll see the update there, you'll see what to update, and so on. So that's really where you get access to all your collections, basically. So that's the flow. And with that, and maybe last step here, and we're heading to the conclusion of this presentation. I suggest that you reserve a bit of time just to go through the user guide. So go on the help, and there's now a Strata section for the user guide, because, well, it's a novel thing, right? You never consume sound effects library in multi-track format. So there's a few specificities in the way we build Strata that really worth knowing. So I suggest that you go through that. You see the Reaper preferences that we suggest to install, the Reaper extensions, and how we arrange our regions, markers, and so on, and best practices on rendering, UCS naming, that kind of thing. And there's also one collection guide or user guide per collection as well. And these are much shorter documentation, but the goal is really to highlight what is really specific about this precise collection. Sometimes it could be, I don't know, certain software layer or ways to listen to your content in various ways. Or for some collections, we do use MIDI controller automation that change the macros of the enrage effects and allows you to get the size of an object being from smaller to larger, for example, or whatever type of fancy automation that really change the shape of your sounds or the profile of your sound. So by knowing what is specific on each of those collections, it just expands your color, your palette for that collection. So it's already it's certainly a good read there. So yeah, really suggest that you explore Strata, and I hope you're gonna have fun putting your hands there and see what you can do with it, and imagining, okay, with all the collections, how much flexibility, how much more control that you have with it, and how much more fidelity I think that you'll be able to achieve, because you really have all the details and all the knobs and the sources at your disposal, and it's really easy to customize that to really fit your needs.
It's quite
Yeah.
incredible, and to you as well, congratulations on the launch of this exciting new product for Audiokinetic. It's a fantastic day for folks out there who are interested in digging in and getting deep on these things. So
Yeah, and for people trying it and so on, please get back to us. We were striving for feedback and suggestions and maybe praise if it's fit, but whatever, right? From good to bad. We want to know how you experience that, where it slows you down maybe in certain areas. We're all about workflow and speeding up things, right? And that's what we've done with Wwise forever. So the same mindset is behind Strata and the future improvement that we want to do with that. So reach back to us, please, with your feedback.
yeah, we're always listening here. We've talked a lot over this last year in our live stream series about different ways you can reach out to us. So please do, as Simon suggests.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm going to tie this off with a bow here and say goodbye for now.
All right.
Thanks so much for your overview on Strata. And again, congratulations.
Thank you. And thank you, Damien, for the great job you've done today again.
Thanks.
It's always reconforting to know that you're driving the show, because you're doing a really good job at it. So
Awesome. Thanks so much. Take care.
yeah, thank you. You too.